There's a lot of shit going on right now, man, and we'll get into it. You know what I'm saying? Like literally, like anybody that knows about Chiron, that actually studies astrology, understands that we're going to go through some type of revisiting or a traumatic event of somehow. Something's coming up to the surface. Something's pouring out. You know what I'm saying? Like whether it's negative aspects of ourselves or negative aspects of people around us, I think a lot of these things are being voiced in one way or another, whether it's, through silence, whether it's through its energetic behavior, whether it's through, just influence. You can pretty much read these things outside of yourself, but you could also read them inside of yourself. So the discernment of trying to figure out what the fuck that is, you know what I'm saying? Whether it's you or them, is probably something that might be a little bit tough today and not easy to discern because there's a lot of chaotic energy. There might be even seems what it is like a lack of clarity somehow. You know what I'm saying? It's like your emotions are. It's funny because 3 cards came out earlier and it reminds me of the 2 of Wands, where you're going to choose either fire or water. You're going to choose your destiny, your path, or your legacy, or you're going to get swallowed by your emotions, or you're going to get overwhelmed or distracted by them in one way or another. Choose favor is what Spirit just said. You know what I'm saying? It might not look good right now, and it might be hard to push forward or move through whatever it is that you need to move through right now, but you're meant to move through it. And that's the best advice I have for you is what I need to say here. You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't matter how trivial it is, there's no need to make any rash decisions about anything right now. You know, there's no need to fucking run for the fence. There's no need to fucking run and hide somewhere. There's no need to say fuck it. There's an importance of focus on saying fuck it to the emotional value that you have of things of the past, because that's all you're feeling right now. Suffering, right? And suffering is a great teacher. But in this moment, I feel like for a lot of empathic people or people that are hypersensitive or sensitive to some degree, you know what I'm saying? We have to watch these influences and where they take us right now. You know what I'm saying? So making any rash decisions until later on after, making any rash decisions is not recommended in any situation. But I feel like the energy is going to ease up towards the afternoon and give us an opportunity to see things differently and possibly even give us some clarity on why we feel the way that we do. Or, to be able to communicate and verbalize or possibly even manifest these things somehow, of that opportunity to have that clarity and that realization of what we need, And the Ace of Cups is a new endeavor, is what I hear at the bottom of the deck here. But there's also judgment. You know what I'm saying? We're weighing out our options. We're trying to figure out what the fuck we're going to do. I hear how comes up a lot. How am I going to do this? Or what am I going to do about this? And how is this going to happen? And da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, dude, that's all expectation at this point. You know what I'm saying? Because if you tune into your discernment and you actually look at what you're really doing, you know what I'm saying? And you're passionate about what you're doing, it should become very clear when you focus on those things, right? But you have to be mindful of the distractions that literally come in on people, that things that block the crown, the things that block communication, things that actually block you from your higher self or block you from your spirit communication, your divine knowledge, your wisdom, and your ability to absorb all these effects and gain clarification that is happening through this time right now, because things can be very confusing, but also very expressive, right? And then when you start to express yourself, there might be a possibility where you just don't have the right words in that moment because of the emotional sensitivity that you have, because everything's on fire, right? And not be able to communicate those things properly, even though that you mean well and you mean to communicate it as clearly and as calmly as you possibly can. But overreacting seems to be, or overreacting, whether it's mental, physical, you know what I'm saying, or detrimental in one way or another, is literally happening in this time right now. We kind of woke up to it, is what Spirit is saying. We woke up to some type of conflict or some type of revelation of some inconsistency in our past that might be coming up in the moment, or something that we've been holding on to for the last couple of weeks or the last couple of months. That could also be that, you know what I'm saying? Things not being communicated, things not being properly verbalized, things internalized from that survival space that causes the energy to kind of like gum itself up and not allow us to flow freely or fully through whatever it is that we're transitioning through in this shift that we're all going through, this shift into a higher power, higher self, higher awareness, higher consciousness, whichever, there's many ways to say it, ascension, da-da-da, awakening, da-da-da-da-da. And these things are all happening simultaneously on a collective scale. How those things affect you personally in your life right now is, unique to your experience. But we also have to see the revelation or the realization of these things slowly, mechanically happening in our lives in one way or another. And everything that's coming up right now is literally showing you the way, right? So Push on, my friends, is what I hear. You know what I'm saying? It might be a day where you want to fucking choose comfort, and comfort will choose you rather rapidly, because that's what comfort does, right? But if you're meant to push through, push on, or move forward, not in a way where you're grinding bones, in a sense, or you're grinding stones, but in a way where you're just kind of like trying to balance yourself out emotionally, or with your awareness, or with what's going on right now, or what you're feeling, or what type of clarity that you have, and not allowing these things to overwhelm you in one way or another. Because again, this new level of hypersensitivity is something that may be new to us on this level, in this planetary alignments that we're having right now. And not everything not everything is the same, but it feels different, right? We feel pain, is what I also hear here. Some of us might be going through some very, very harsh, like, awakening or processing of an emotional thing that has been stuck in the fence somehow, and then, didn't manifest until now. Or again, you've probably been holding on to something, holding your words, minding your words, not saying what you really want to say when you want to say it. And that could be really frustrating. And we could be internalizing that frustration by not communicating these things, by not taking the proper time to, manifest a situation that allows you to have the peace and clarity to be able to transmute or transcend this energy and turn it into something positive and something passionate, right? And it's kind of like, I feel like there's the harmonizing of the feminine, or a reharmonizing of the feminine aspect of ourselves that's happening right now. A lot of us, are still exuding masculine, or, masculine behavior, but not brutish masculine behavior. You know what I'm saying? Our survival instincts are coming up. We want to take charge of our lives, and we want to take power of our lives, and we want to engage in the passion and the flow. But if we're doing if we're doing this by using a hammer, you know what I'm saying? This isn't necessarily working out for you, because hitting the wall, hitting the fence, hitting the wall, and hitting the fence until everything breaks down so you can be free really doesn't make sense in the long run. That's what we used to do in the past spaces. That's what we used to do in the survival spaces. You know what I'm saying? That we'd have to mow through shit. We'd have to push through shit. We'd have to do things that we didn't fucking want. And we had to suck it up in one way or another and just fucking deal with it. Not only our emotions, the relationships that we were in those times. You know what I'm saying? The things that we actually put up with, in our work relationships and our personal relationships and our family and our community. All these things are rising up to the surface to show you your power, to take your power back, right? To truly, truly master yourself and engage in that mastership and that, the divinity that we all have within ourselves, because God is real and you all know that. You know what I'm saying? And it's just as much a part of you as you are it. And, and literally I split the deck, dude, and here's the Fool card, and I feel like this might be, not only are you on a new level, is what they're saying here, but also at the same time, you're realizing that there has to be a balance of the masculine and the feminine. And when you're overwhelmed by feminine energy, you could get really sensitive. Or when you're overwhelmed by masculine energy, and it could be toxic masculine energy, then you could become very aggressive or very brutish. Or you can engage in the feminine, you know what I'm saying? Being in your masculine, you could engage the sensitive side of the masculine and kind of like cower in fear somehow, and want to comfort yourself and want to literally take care of yourself, or pull yourself away from everything because you feel like you want to cry, or you feel like you're overstimulated, or you feel like there's too much chest pressure, and everything can be easily overwhelming. So you need to take space from everybody else, right? This is a condition, is what Spirit's saying. Don't run and hide from the very things that are coming up in your life right now that need your attention. They require your affection, but they also need your clarity and your willingness to sit there, or willingness to go through whatever it is that you're going through right now with more courage and more fortitude, knowing that you will move through this and everything is temporary. You know what I'm saying? So they're using the term great suffering. And I feel like this has to do a lot with our finances collective. You know what I'm saying? I feel like this has to do with money, our physical structure, our foundation, and all those things that literally ail us and bother us, because we have responsibilities and we got to take care of those things. And it reminds me of the Alan Watts speech, where spiritual people or enlightened or awakened people really have a hard time making money because they're associated with money. It's not the same association that we had from a past survival space where we're codependent on it, where we become dependent on it, where we obsess over it, where we take this material worth and material wealth and we put that above ourselves, right? And this is asking you to do the opposite, basically. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to money, material wealth, your finances, the person, place, or thing that's associated with the troubles of those finances or the troubles of those things. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's not put a blame game, but let's all be responsible and accountable for our actions and our behaviors. You know what I'm saying? Because being pissed off or pissed on is not going to fix anything, right? So therefore, do nothing, right? but not do nothing in a way where you're not being proactive and not literally suffering, engaging in some type of progression of where it is that you want to be, what it is that you want to do, regardless of how little it is. Every action takes effort. And when you're aware of that effort becomes a manifestation. You know what I'm saying? Slowly but surely, you come to an accordance, an agreement, a coherence with the universe to manifest exactly what it is that you desire. And focusing on those things helps you understand divine discipline in a nutshell, is what Spirit just said. So as we go through these motions and go through these transitions, just remember everything that's bothering you is hindering you from finding a solution, so that way it doesn't bother you anymore, or it stops bothering you, you know? And that's kind of like the humble Harry shit that you have to be right now, because things can be overwhelming. We're all up on the fucking fence. We're all pretty much from here to here, and some of us can't even fucking breathe. But that tension is a manifestation of resistance. It's also a manifestation of you not being able to deal with this shit. It's also a manifestation of overwhelm, you know what I'm saying, and overstimulation. And when the nervous system reacts and we're all shaking in our fucking boots in one way or another because we're hypersensitive and we're feeling all these things, and they could be new to us or they could be triggered by some kind of past behavior, person, place, or thing, you're the one who has to, you're getting shaken down in that moment, and you might not know what to do, so you can panic and go back to some old shit to fucking help you meditate through those things, or you can stay in the now and realize that you're meant to face, or you're meant to move forward through whatever it is that's literally pushing against you, because adversity is just like challenge, right? And we are consistently challenged and they literally tell you about soul evolution and growth on a spiritual path, that you understand that without resistance, it changes nothing. We have to make those choices, but we have to be given those opportunity to make those choices. But also on top of taking the opportunity to make the choice, it's focusing on the fact that you're being given an opportunity to make a choice on how you're going to navigate this situation, regardless of what you feel. You know what I'm saying? Because feeling is not discernment. Feeling is the key to understanding that there is discernment that is required. You know what I'm saying? That is a triggered reaction when we react off the emotion and we assume it to be what it is, not knowing that we are more sensitive or hypersensitive to our complete surroundings, and it might not even be us in the first place. And then whatever triggered responses or emotional responses is basically a reflection of how you feel about yourself and how you're still navigating these situations from a past space when you're not supposed to be doing that. Because all it does is break things down. It doesn't build things up, is what Spirit is saying here. So it's like getting to a fight and getting to an angry, unless you've really got something to say, is fucking pointless right now. Getting frustrated at yourself or being self-demeaning and literally kind of like absorbing that energy and allowing those emotions to pour through you will literally fuck you in the process, is what Spirit just said. You know what I'm saying? Because this isn't about that reality anymore. We couldn't survive there. That's why we're not there anymore. That's why we're at. Because we wholeheartedly intended not to fucking be there anymore. And here we are at the top of a mountain having to climb another one, and a lot of us are complaining somehow. But we have to see how the complacency or the complaining is keeping us in this perpetual cycle of, oh, I don't want to fucking do it, or I don't want to fucking do it, or maybe I don't want to do that. You know what I'm saying? Well, what about this if I do that? Da 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 da. Like you're in some kind of negotiation or some shit. Spirit has shown you the door. What are you gonna do about it? And when you realize that you have to surpass your emotions to create the strength within you, or motivate or inspire yourself, you realize that now you are actually heightening your senses and increasing the fiery, passionate aspect of all this astrological behavior and engaging in the actual manifestation of making things happen like we've been talking about. This is that opportunity for a lot of people to see failure. You know what I'm saying? And why we fail is because we don't do what we need to do in the moments where we have to make a fucking decision on where we're going to stand up for ourselves, for our lives, for what we believe in, for what's meant to us, or literally cower in fear, or be consumed and put in a comfy place or a safe space or a dangerous place because we were irrational and decided to engage in the emotion, instead of the actual fact that we're being given an opportunity to rise, to grow, to push forward, to move forward, but you move forward with discernment and intuition and have clarity as we take each step. Slowly but surely, steady wins, slow and steady wins the race. The Spirit is saying, if you're looking for a rapid come up, this isn't the way. The lottery ticket is probably the answer. You know what I'm saying? But in that, remember, you're playing a game that has been already rigged against you, just like everything else here. You know what I'm saying? And that is not your enemy. It's your willingness to participate in the game that a lot of us already know about that is the problem here, is what Spirit just said. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of intensity, there's a lot of fiery aspects, but there's a lot of water or emotional water that we're still trying to push through. Having the moon in Pisces, having all this, having the air energy, having Libra literally coming and bringing that balance to us a couple weeks ago, at the beginning when the moon hit. Realize it puts things into perspective on what's being weighed here. We're weighing ourselves. We're opening up our hearts and giving them to God, or opening up to the universe and saying, hey, look, these are all my issues. And this is where I'm not allowed to fucking grow because I don't know how to get past this shit. And it's no surprise that these things are literally coming up to the surface once more, just like they did last week, only to let you know that this is that pattern behavior, or these are that emotions that keep you stuck where you're at, or keep you going around in circles, or keep you distracted from the very things that you want or should be doing, right? It's another form of wasting time. And a lot of people might get pissed off when they say that they're wasting time. But that in itself is the ego, because there's no such thing as time. What we're doing is we're not utilizing our God-given fucking moment to the fullest. You know what I'm saying? And I like a lot of people, that kind of recognize that, because then they can make profound changes in their lives, is what Spirit just said. You know what I'm saying? So this is kind of like a coagulation of things coming together for your grand little review. You know what I'm saying? So that way it's basically saying, what are you going to do? What are you going to build? What would you like to grow? You know what I'm saying? What is it that you can focus on that brings you some sense of self? You know what I'm saying? Some sense of being a human, or living in the moment, or being in flow. What does that take? How does that benefit you in some way? You know what I'm saying? Are you taking the opportunities to do those things? Are you taking the opportunity to engage in that flow and that rhythm? Or are you still seeking for an answer of some type of ailment that's going to cure whatever dis-ease that you have inside of you? You know what I'm saying? Outside of yourself. You are the answer. You always have been, and you always will be. And I think that's something that people need to pay attention to, because you're responsible for your own reality, regardless of whether I'm in it or not. You know what I'm saying? Or anyone else for that matter. Because we're not here to tell you how to do things. We're here to explain these experiences to you and what's exactly happening with clarity and divine oneness connection. So that way you better understand yourselves to be able to navigate your lives much more fluidly and flowily, like the way it should, right? But we can be overly dramatic about the things that we're reacting to, not realizing that it's like, okay, well, dude, if you're feeling this type of way about this situation, what else are you feeling? Okay, so if you're feeling an overall sensitivity to everything, then it's not just this one thing. This is the beauty of discernment. This is what we practice in the mentorship space. This is how we teach people how to learn and grow in a way where they're not killing themselves or running themselves over with a bus. You know what I'm saying? Like, there is an end to the suffering when we take the willingness to engage on why we suffer in the first place, so that way we suffer no more. And it's a very beautiful saying, because it's pretty fucking simple, and it's not hard to connect with. And I bet anybody with common sense should be able to understand exactly what we're saying right now. We're not saying that anybody's dumb, and we're not saying that anybody's slow, and we're not here to insult people. But we're here to bring down the direct truth, so that way people better understand that it's like, hey, we're not fucking around, dude. We're serious. Whatever it is that you don't trust, or whatever it is that you deny inside of your mind, is exactly what the fuck you should be looking at right now, because this is a gift and an opportunity right here in your face, giving you the green light to do whatever it is that you really want to do, that you're wholeheartedly passionate about, and you'd think people would understand the importance of that. But it's also that heart-based disconnect that we're also going through, that is literally coming up to the surface, that is not allowing us to see that. So you see, either way, all paths lead to the one. Everything comes full circle. So, you can engage in the trap, run full circle from the trap, and then release yourself from the trap because you've realized that you've been in the trap for too long, and then you do something about it, or you can engage in taking the proper path and taking the proper steps in the necessary way that it takes right now with all this planetary enlightenment, that is happening to everyone, and take your first step into oneness, into the path, into your divinity, into your legacy, into your destiny. Either way, they're all intertwined. So it doesn't matter where you're at. You're still headed for all those things, should you choose this path or believe what we're saying here right now. Take what resonates, fam. I feel like there's just a little bit more here, fam, so bear with me. What we believe to see in the unseen is what we believe to be. Let me break it down for you. It doesn't matter what it looks like. It's what it is that is the most important. And what is benefits you. What isn't has a way of ailing us or slowing us down. The importance of this message is that people understand their humanity and your ability to change that awareness of their own humanity or themselves with this knowledge and information. This wisdom is sacred, and it should be honored as such because we are sacred. And I believe a lot of people have disconnected from that sacredness, but their sacredness inside themselves is calling to them, and this is why these things are coming up. So, taking the time to sit with yourself or taking an honest opportunity just to be with yourself would probably be in the best benefit or behavior. Take some time in the afternoon, whether it's between 3 to 5 o'clock or 1 to 3 o'clock, whatever you do, just remember to take some time for yourself and help you understand what overwhelm and the releasing of overwhelm actually is, because the great benefic is also going to allow you to do that. When Jupiter comes into play later on this afternoon, there's going to be a release of tension, sudden clarity, a little bit of forward momentum, maybe even a little bit of spunk and inspiration, fam. This is what we say. Sometimes you got to plow through shit or see yourself as plowing through shit just to get through shit to see that it really wasn't that hard in the first place. It was more so you moving past your mind and what you think matters than anything else, is what they say here. You are the great benefactor of your own life. And the more you pour into it, the more you will get in return. And this is that reciprocation of energy that everybody allows to burn, instead of actually utilizing what it's meant for right now. So with that being said, your foundations might feel a little bit fucked up and you're on shaky ground, homie, but also at the same time, you're good should you choose to calm yourself down and take your nerves down a notch. You'll be all right today, and you'll be all right and then some, because that's a spiritual practice, and that's something that we should do more often, so that way we can see things clearly as these things come out. Focus on your foundation, fam. We're dealing with a lot of family right now, community, people we hang out with. You might notice a couple things coming up from the past right now, or you're being reminded of shit of the past in one way or another, whether it's emotional or something that you can physically see, whether it's a name, a face, somebody that looks like somebody. It's almost like you're having nightmares or daydreams about these things or these people. Just remember that this is all part of that inner enlightenment that's coming forth, and we're supposed to be looking at this from a very unique perspective, and it's unique to each and every one of us. If you're looking for those kind of answers, detailed answers that are supplying more of a unique understanding for yourself instead of general collective message, we have mini Soul Counsel messages here today. They are donation-based readings. You can, the link is in the bio. You can type down in how you donate and on how to navigate this world at this time in this energy that we're having right now, because it's going to go all the way through the week, fam. You know what I'm saying? So if you're having a hard time dealing with shit, if you are having, not clear about what you should be navigating or what you should be focused on, I highly recommend these things for you. Because these are all channeled divine messages for each and every one of you, and they are unique to do. And that's what's special and beautiful about you. That the uniqueness, you know what I'm saying? The vibration and the frequency that you bring to the table is unique to itself, even though that, yes, we are all one, but we are all unique versions of that one. And we're here to experience life together in one way or another. So if you feel like you can benefit from these messages, link is in the bio. Type down in how you donated. If you'd like something more personal, we have Private Soul Counsel available on fourcornershealing37.com. If you're looking for energy alignment, sound healing, chakra balancing, all those things that we could be using right now, meditation or some type of shamanic journey because you need to go into the shadows, all these things are available on our website, fam. Don't be afraid to engage in these services because these services help you take a step forward and not necessarily a step back. So it's all for your benefit. And that's what these services are for. This is why we're here, and this is why we do what we do. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this collective message today because it's a very powerful message for a lot of people out there, including myself.